Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you've shared and really dig in to pull out the key insights, the knowledge you need, tailored just for you.
Think of it as your personalized briefing on what truly matters from the stuff you're curious about.
Yeah, exactly. And today, our mission is to explore the ideas in Vishen Lakhiani's work. Specifically, happiness and life coaching, Vishen Lakhiani, the code of the extraordinary mind.
Right. We're going to look at concepts that can help you, absorb info faster, see things from different angles.
And get those aha
hmm
moments, right? Without feeling totally swamped by it all.
Definitely. And what's interesting about Lacchiani's stuff is how much is there. It's not just a book.
No.
No, he introduces new terms. There's this whole online side with extra interviews, techniques, visuals, even a community. You can tell it comes from a pretty deep personal journey for him.
It sounds like it evolved quite a bit.
Yeah, apparently started as an online talk, took years to become the book. Even Richard Branson nudged him along.
Okay, so let's unpack this. He starts with this foundational idea, the culturescape. What exactly is he talking about there? Why is it important?
So the culturescape,
Hmm.
it's essentially the whole collection of rules, beliefs, practices that society, humanity has built up over time.
Like the unwritten rules of life.
Pretty much,
Oh, yeah.
it's the framework that kind of tells us how to live, what success looks like, what happiness is supposed to be.
Supposed to be. I like that distinction.
Exactly. His big point is these aren't like universal laws. They were made up by people. People no smarter than you or me. And that means, well, they could be questioned. They could be changed.
And that's where it gets really interesting, right? He says just going along with this culturescape can lead to a limited life.
Yeah, versus the thrilling ride of an unrestricted life that comes from asking disruptive questions.
Sounds appealing. But how does this actually show up? Like in everyday life?
Okay, so this is where he brings in rules.
Yeah.
B-R-U-L-E-S.
Rules.
Short for, well, bullshit rules.
Ah.
These are the outdated ideas,
Yeah.
the assumptions that we carry around, often without even realizing it, that kind of hold us back. Limit creativity, growth.
Give me an example.
Okay, think about the classic one. If you're smart, good at math or science, you have to be a doctor or an engineer. Lacchiani himself felt that pressure.
Right, even if your passion is totally different.
Exactly. Or the idea that a proper 9 to 5 job is the only real path to success,
Mhm.
even though, let's be honest, a lot of people aren't thrilled with their job.
Or things like marriage expectations, despite, the divorce rates.
Right. In the U.S., it's like 40–50%. Or even happiness itself, he points out. Only about a third of Americans polled said they were very happy. These are societal norms we often just accept.
So these rules are like old clothes we're still wearing.
That's a great analogy he uses. Shedding them is liberating.
Mm.
And what's fascinating is how he connects this to language.
Language. How so?
He mentions that Radiolab piece, about how some ancient cultures didn't even have a word for blue, like Homer's wine dark sea.
Wow. So language literally shapes how we perceive reality.
It seems like it can, yeah. And language is what allowed us to build culture in the first place.
Mm.
Create rules, societies, make sense of things.
But there's a downside too.
Well, yeah. It also led to rigid dogmas, labeling things as other, creating conflict over, let's face it, often arbitrary borders and beliefs.
So a lot of these cultural rules we accept are maybe just convenient or traditional.
Exactly. Not necessarily rational,
Mhm.
maybe way past their expiration date.
Yeah.
It really echoes that Steve Jobs quote, right?
Yeah.
About rules being made up by people no smarter than you.
Which leads right into Lakhiani's first law,
hmm
transcend the culturescape.
Yes. He's saying extraordinary people don't just follow the script. They look at this culturescape, see it for what it is, a set of agreements, and they consciously choose which rules work for me, which ones don't.
So it's about being selective, questioning.
Absolutely. And that questioning is often where innovation comes from. Not just in tech, but in how we actually live our lives.
Yeah. He even goes into why safety might be overrated. Mentions Elon Musk's high tolerance for pain.
Right, the idea that challenges, even painful ones, can be where the real growth happens. Lacchiani shares his own story, getting laid off or having a mishap at Microsoft.
Seemed bad at the time.
Totally. But it pushed him onto a different path, led him to meet his wife, start his company. Sometimes stepping out of the safe zone leads to unexpected good stuff.
But he does add a word of caution, doesn't he? Questioning these things can be disruptive.
Oh, for sure. It can shake up relationships, beliefs, your whole life path. It's not always easy.
He also talks about social contagion, how ideas spread almost like viruses.
Yeah, we just kind of absorb beliefs from the people around us, often without really thinking critically about them. Paul Marsden's work on memetics touches on this beliefs can sort of have us when we're unsure. We just conform.
And he uses that great story from his childhood, questioning why Hindus couldn't eat beef.
At age 9, he goes to the Encyclopedia Britannica, finds out the historical context, and basically proves his mom's reasoning was more cultural tradition than strict religious law.
That must have been a huge realization for a kid.
Huge. He realized a long-held belief could just dissolve, and it made him start questioning other things, like religion itself. It really highlights that we've always done it this way isn't a good enough reason.
Which ties into what he says later about being spiritual but not religious.
Exactly. In today's world, with access to so much wisdom, maybe sticking rigidly to one inherited box doesn't make sense anymore. He suggests picking and choosing what resonates from different traditions.
So how do we pick up these rules in the first place? He lists a few ways.
Yeah, 5 main ones. Childhood indoctrination kids are like molten glass, as Harari says, easily shaped.
Makes sense.
Then authority figures, teachers, religious leaders, parents pushing expectations, the need to belong, fitting in, peer pressure.
Oh yeah, the tribal instinct.
Definitely. Then just historical acceptance traditions nobody questions anymore.
No.
And finally, the media shaping narratives and norms constantly.
He uses that wild story about Dean Kamen creating his own island, North Dumpling Island.
Huh. Yes, such a great example of challenging the rule of the nation-state itself. Apparently, a fight over putting up a wind turbine, spark it, just total anti-bureaucracy spirit.
Love it. So all this leads to Law 2.
Law 2, question the rules. Simple as that. Extraordinary minds question rules that don't align with their dreams and their authentic selves.
So the takeaway is we need to actively look at our own beliefs, put them through a sort of rule test.
Exactly. Take conscious control, which actually leads perfectly into the next big idea, consciousness engineering.
Consciousness engineering. Okay, that sounds technical, but intriguing. What's the core idea?
Well, he comes from a computer engineering background, right? So he kind of applies that thinking to personal growth. It's basically a way to speed up your growth by consciously choosing what to accept or reject from the culturescape.
Like hacking your own mind.
Kind of, yeah. It starts with asking why. Why do we do things this way?
And this came out of his own tough times after the dot-com crash.
Yeah, he talks about being broke, sleeping on couches, stuck in a dead-end sales job in Silicon Valley, just feeling really low.
Been there. Well, maybe not the couch surfing, but the low part.
Right. And he stumbled onto personal growth stuff online. Keywords like hope, success, asking, why does life have to suck so bad?
The eternal question.
Totally. And it led him to try things like meditation, just 15, 30 minutes a day, tapping into intuition, using visualization for his sales calls, practicing empathy.
And did it work?
Apparently, dramatically. Transformed his sales performance, his whole outlook, gave him the confidence to quit that job and start Mindvalley.
Selling meditation CDs initially.
Yeah, started small, then expanded into all sorts of personal growth areas.
Huh.
And he built it, remarkably, with no loans, no VC funding.
Wow. So the core idea here is that our beliefs shape our world, but we can change those beliefs.
Precisely. Beliefs make us who we are, but they are not us. Consciousness engineering is the toolkit for swapping out old, unhelpful beliefs for new, empowering ones.
He calls them models of reality, these ingrained beliefs about how things work.
Right, and rewriting those models is key because they filter everything we experience. Remember we talked about how we often just imitate beliefs? This is about consciously choosing them.
He uses those studies, right? The hotel maids.
Yeah, just telling them their work counted as good exercise led to actual weight loss, lower blood pressure, better health markers, even though they didn't consciously change their behavior.
That's incredible, the power of belief.
And the knee surgery study, too, sham surgeries, basically placebos, still resulted in significant pain reduction for many patients. Mind over matter, literally.
So it's not just beliefs, but also our systems for living, our habits.
Exactly. He argues our education system, kind of stuck in the industrial age, hasn't really taught us the best systems for things like exercise, love, parenting, how to function optimally.
He compares them to smartphone apps.
Yeah, systems you can update, refine, or just delete if they aren't working for you anymore.
And he sees limitations in our current systems.
3 main ones. Too much focus on the external world, using outdated models passed down through generations, and just a lack of conscious, deliberate practices.
He tells that story about the Achuar tribe in the Amazon.
Oh, fascinating stuff. Their whole way of life is so different. Sleep, hygiene, their relationship with water, spirituality,
Hmm.
especially their morning ritual with Wayuza tea.
What was that about?
They use it to discuss their dreams from the night before, integrating them into their waking life. It's like a mental and spiritual cleanse. It just highlights how much of what we consider real or normal is just one cultural construct among many. It could be changed, evolved.
Which brings us to that exercise, the
Yeah.
12 areas of balance.
Right, from John Butcher. It's a tool to look at your whole life: love, friendships, health, intellect, skills, spirit, career, creativity, family, community, adventures, environment. All of it.
See where you're thriving, where you need rebalancing.
Exactly. Lakhiani shares how doing this made him realize his own intense drive for success was actually fueled by this underlying belief of, I am not enough.
Wow, even with all his
Yeah.
success.
And he realized that resolving that belief could actually lead to more success and definitely more well-being. Becoming aware of those unconscious models is the first step.
He has some powerful personal stories about changing beliefs, like Mary's compliment.
Oh yeah, just a simple compliment completely shattered his long-held belief that he wasn't attractive to women. He says it totally changed his dating life, eventually leading him to meet his wife, Christina. Shows how one moment can shift things.
And the hypnotherapy with Marissa Peer about money.
Right, addressing his discomfort with making and having money. And again, it linked back to that core belief, I am not enough. It's like this root issue.
So this all feeds into Law 4.
Law 4. Rewrite your models of reality. Extraordinary minds consciously cultivate beliefs that empower them, make them feel good, and help them positively influence the world.
Okay, so once you've started rewriting those core beliefs, those models, the next step is upgrading systems for living, putting it into practice, basically.
Exactly. It's about taking those new beliefs and embedding them into your daily habits and routines. He uses that analogy again, constantly updating your internal software, like apps on your phone.
Keep things optimized.
Right. He shares Richard Branson's system for starting companies as an example.
What was that again?
Hire smart people, give them good work, trust them completely, then get out of their way so you can focus on the big vision and make them feel like they're on a mission. Simple, but powerful.
And Lakhiani found refining his own systems helped his writing.
Exponentially, he says, just by fine-tuning how he approached it. It shows that tweaking these daily practices can have a huge impact.
He breaks down creating systems into stages.
Yeah, three main ones. Discovery. Look how extraordinary people do things. Observe their systems. Installation. Consciously adopt and adapt those systems for yourself. And refinement. Constantly tweak and optimize them based on your results.
Always improving.
Continuous improvement. He mentions Patrick Grove's method for tackling problems, just intense focus on one massive problem until it's solved. That's a system.
Then there's the idea of non-negotiable set points. What's that about?
It's a really practical tool. You set a minimum standard for yourself in important areas to ensure you maintain or improve. His example is the 50 push-ups daily.
Like a baseline for health.
Exactly. Non-negotiable. You just do it. He suggests identifying areas from those 12 areas of balance and setting specific, measurable set points for them.
Like meditating for 5 minutes or calling a friend once a week.
Perfect examples. Things that keep you on track.
Yeah.
He also mentions Ariana Huffington's daily systems.
Sleep is a big one for her, right?
Huge. 8 hours non-negotiable.
Okay.
Plus morning meditation, 20 minutes or more, and practicing gratitude before checking your phone. Even just 5 minutes of meditation daily, he argues, makes a difference.
So it's about building these consistent positive routines.
Consciously choosing and upgrading them. Which leads very nicely into the next idea. Living in blisscipline.
Blisscipline, love that word. Discipline for bliss.
Pretty much. The core idea, backed by research from guys like Sean Aker, is that our brains literally work better when we're in a positive state. Happier equals more effective.
He mentions Richard Branson dancing on tables.
Yeah, just embodying that joyful approach to life and business. It's not frivolous. It actually helps performance.
And there's actual data on this.
Oh, yeah. Aker's studies in The Happiness Advantage, doctors in training primed with candy, were faster and more accurate diagnosing. Happier 4-year-olds learned faster with fewer errors. Happiness fuels success.
He breaks down happiness into different types.
3 main ones. Happiness from unique experience is great, but often short-lived. Happiness from gratitude, appreciating the present. And happiness from meaning fulfillment, from contributing, from purpose.
He mentions the parenthood paradox here, too.
Right, how having kids might lower day-to-day short-term happiness sometimes, but provides this incredibly deep sense of meaning and long-term fulfillment. It shows happiness isn't just about feeling good right now.
So blisscipline is the actual practice of cultivating this daily happiness.
Yes, the discipline of daily practices that foster bliss. Things he calls transcendent practices.
Like the reverse gaff idea from Dan Sullivan.
That's a key one for gratitude. Instead of always focusing on the gap between where you are and where you want to be, look back at how far you've already come.
Shifts the perspective.
Totally. Fosters appreciation for the progress you've made, which fuels present happiness. He suggests a simple daily gratitude practice. Name 3 to 5 things you're grateful for, personally and professionally, and really feel the gratitude.
Forgiveness is also key to blisscipline.
Absolutely. He even cites neurofeedback data showing that holding grudges suppresses alpha waves, the brain waves associated with calm and creativity.
Wow. So letting go literally changes your brain state.
Seems like it. He talks about forgiving into love, shifting from anger and pain towards compassion and learning. He outlines a simple exercise. Visualize the hurt, feel it briefly, then consciously shift to compassion.
Powerful stuff. And giving, that's part of it too.
A huge part. Giving connects directly to gratitude and meaning. Think of the Dalai Lama's message. To be happy, make others happy. Research backs it up too. Gratitude makes people more caring. Being a giver links strongly to a meaningful life.
He tells that story about Mind Valley's Love Week.
Yeah, where employees did surprise acts of kindness for each other. The big takeaway. People often got more joy from giving than receiving. Plus, it boosted connection and productivity, echoing Gallup's findings about feeling cared for at work.
So practice merciless kindness.
Love that phrase. Actively look for ways to give time, skills, love, support in your communities. It all comes back to that Dalai Lama quote Christina asked him about, how to be happy when they're suffering.
And his answer was,
But who can you help if you're unhappy? Blisscipline isn't selfish. It actually equips you to bring more bliss to the world.
which leads us to looking forward, creating a vision for your future, focusing on end goals.
Right. You need that forward momentum, that sense of purpose, dreams, visions, goals. Without it, life can feel kind of parched, as he puts it, meaningless.
But he makes a crucial distinction between means goals and end goals.
Yes, this is really important. Means goals are steps towards something else, often driven by those cultural rules, like getting a specific degree or making X amount of money so that you can be happy or respected.
Okay, so they're instrumental.
Exactly. End goals are the experiences that are rewarding in and of themselves.
Hmm.
Things like experiencing deep love, growing intellectually, creating something beautiful, contributing to a cause you believe in. The feeling is the goal.
And the danger is chasing means goals, thinking they are the end goals.
Precisely. Lakhiani shares his own story here, achieving massive business success by conventional standards. Fast growth, funding, press, money, but feeling empty.
Because it wasn't fulfilling the real end goal.
Right, he lacked deep connection, meaning this led him to create A-Fest, almost accidentally at first.
How did that happen?
He just invited his audience to hang out, focusing purely on end goals, friendship, travel, learning, fun. It wasn't about business metrics, and it grew into this huge, meaningful event.
And focusing on end goals changed things for him personally.
Dramatically. He sold off a business that made him miserable, bought back Mind Valley, and reshaped it around his true mission. It was transformative.
So how do we identify our own end goals? He offers those 3 most important questions from Martin Ritt.
Yes, a really powerful exercise. Question 1. Recall a time you felt pure joy, like heaven on earth. What was actually happening? What did it feel like?
Tap into past peak experiences.
Exactly. Question 2. If you had a magic wand, what would your heaven on earth look like now? Dream big. What experiences, growth, contributions define it for you?
Visualize the ideal.
And question 3. What's one simple, concrete step you can take in the next 24 hours to start making that heaven on earth real?
Make it actionable immediately.
Right. And he suggests relating these questions to those 12 areas of balance to get really specific about experiences, growth, and contribution.
And the key is to trust your gut, your intuition.
Definitely. Don't overthink it. Pay attention to what makes your heart open, what feels exciting. Those emotions are clues pointing towards your true end goals, your mission.
Which brings us to maybe the most striking concepts, becoming unfuckwithable and finding your calling. Let's start with unfuckwithable. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's memorable. It's Law 9. It means reaching a state of inner peace where external stuff, criticism, setbacks, other people's drama just doesn't throw you off balance anymore.
So it's not about apathy, not caring.
Not at all. You can still have huge goals. It's about detaching your happiness and your sense of self-worth from external outcomes or validation.
And there are two parts to it.
Two core components, yeah. One is being truly at peace with yourself, flaws and all. The other is deeply realizing that you are enough inherently, right now.
He brings up Marissa Peer again here, that idea of I am not enough.
Yeah, her concept that it's like the biggest disease affecting humanity. This deep-seated feeling drives so much of our need for external validation, achievements, praise, possessions.
And true self-love is more attractive anyway.
Way more. It radiates confidence rather than neediness. When you know you're enough, you don't demand validation from others.
And you become immune to other people's behavior. How?
By controlling your own reactions, realizing you choose the meaning you assign to what others do or say. Their stuff is their stuff. It doesn't have to define your reality unless you let it.
He tells that embarrassing story, rapping, ice, ice, baby.
Oh man, yeah. As a teenager, messing up the lyrics, feeling totally crushed by the social rejection. It's a relatable example of how much power we can give to others' opinions, especially when we're young.
So how do you regain that inner balance when you do get knocked off?
He offers a simple hack, actually from Ariana Huffington. Just focus on your breath for 10 seconds. Bring yourself back to the present moment. Interrupt the stress cycle.
Simple, but effective.
Totally. And when you reach that state more consistently, no longer needing validation, pursuing your own end goals, that's when you're really ready for the big stuff, the massive goals that can actually change the culturescape.
Which is where the calling comes in.
Exactly. Your calling is more than a career. It's your contribution. Your unique way of leaving the world better than you found it. Extraordinary people, he argues, are driven by a calling.
Like his own calling with Mind Valley.
Right, to create this school for humanity, spreading personal growth. He talks about the intrinsic rewards of pursuing a mission like that being far greater than just money or status.
And the calling often finds you.
Yeah, it's often not a linear search. The path reveals itself, often through challenges. Those difficulties can be signposts.
He mentions Kensho and Satori.
From Michael Bernard Beckwith. Kensho is growth through pain, through adversity, like Lakhiani's own stories of salary cuts, visa problems, near business failure that led to breakthroughs. Satori is growth through sudden insight and awakening. Both are valid paths.
And sometimes the universe just calls, like Emily Fletcher's idea.
Right, you get these intuitive nudges, these opportunities land in your lap. The key is to be open and seize them when they appear.
He also introduces the godical theory.
Yeah, this idea that we're all interconnected particles of some larger universal force or consciousness. It's presented as an empowering model of reality, fostering connection and purpose. Less about dogma, more about feeling part of something bigger.
And this shifts motivation from being pushed to pulled.
Big time. It means goals often require willpower, pushing yourself. But when you're aligned with your calling, pursuing end goals, you feel pulled by the vision. Passion takes over from motivation.
So those three most important questions come back again. To find the quest.
They're a key tool for uncovering that calling, that vision that pulls you. And then Napoleon Hill's advice. Just take a step, even a small one. Show the universe your intention.
And finally, he briefly mentions the 6-phase meditation.
Yeah, it just touches on it as a practical tool. He stresses it's more than just clearing your mind. It's a structured, science-backed practice.
What are the phases again?
Connection, gratitude, forgiveness, visioning your future, focusing on your top 3 goals for the day, and then a blessing. It takes about 15 minutes, designed to boost happiness, reduce stress, support everything else we've talked about.
Okay, wow. So recapping this whole deep dive into Lakhiani's code, we started with the culturescape, those invisible rules, and the rules we need to question.
Right. Then moving into consciousness engineering, actively choosing our beliefs, rewriting our models of reality.
Then upgrading our systems for living, our daily habits, and the importance of discipline, actively cultivating happiness.
Which fuels everything.
Yeah.
Then focusing on true end goals instead of just means goals, finding that compelling vision for the future.
Leading ultimately to becoming unfuckwithable, finding that inner peace and self-acceptance.
And discovering and living your unique calling, your way to contribute.
It really feels like a framework for designing a life on your own terms, not just accepting the default settings.
Exactly. It's about becoming the conscious architect of your own experience, rather than just reacting to the culturescape around you.
So, as you, the listener, reflect on all this, maybe think about what rules you might be following without realizing it. What models of reality are shaping your world? What end goals truly light you up?
Maybe try those 3 most important questions. Or just start a simple 5-minute gratitude practice tomorrow morning. It's a journey, right? Not a destination.
Absolutely. This whole exploration really underscores how much of what we think of as reality is, well, constructed.
It really does. Makes you think.
Which leads us to our final thought for you today. Now that you've glimpsed the constructed nature of reality, what's one rule you will consciously choose to rewrite first?